talking to this particular farmer and help us understand why he chose to actually get into this kind of business of this particular type of tea, which is purple tea. And just briefly, just come and just tell us very briefly your name and tell us why you decided to farm this particular type of tea, which is purple.
My name is Robert Muremu wa Muhame. This place is Dumano. I decided to grow this crop because compared to green tea, it is going to fetch. Everybody is looking for money, so as a farmer, I go for money too. It is business. It is business farming. That is why I went for this crop.
Okay, and maybe tell us a little bit about this particular crop. How different is it from the regular tea that we all know?
This crop is different from the green tea, you know, because one, it is a well-researched crop from the TRFK Kerisho, and when we farmers we were allowed to grow it, we were told it is medicinal. We were told it suppresses blood pressure, it suppresses diabetes, it is nutritious, it is more nutritious than the green tea.
Okay, and therefore let me ask you, why did you decide? You actually told me that you had the green tea before, and you uprooted it so that you can plant this particular crop. Have you seen any changes in terms of your earnings?
Yes, I have seen changes in my earnings because this purple tea is more productive. It produces more kilos than the green tea. Two, when I uprooted this tea, I used the current method of planting. Green tea we were planting 5 feet by 2.5, but this one we are planting 2 by 2 by 4. That means from a bush to a bush is 2 feet, and from a row to a row is 4 feet. So you can, as you can see, from this bush to that one is 2 feet. We call it 2 by 2 by 4. From here to here 2 feet. From that bush to this bush is 2. So 2 lines are going parallel. So where you had planted about 80,000 bushes, you're gonna plant 16,000 bushes. So those the tea production is on the table, not on the surface. So the more table you have, the more product you get.
All right, and maybe what are some of the challenges that you have been facing as a purple tea farmer, especially in terms of marketing?
The challenge is great because we do not have a market. KTDA is not processing it as it had promised. This is why we have come to apply for a license for ourselves, because those who have licenses are selling this tea at a very high price. If you go to Kangaita and you find, because they process this tea, they are at a gate price, they are selling at 1,500. But when we take at Ragati here, it is processed just like the green tea, and we are paid the same price. That is a great challenge. But that challenge is short-lived. It is short time, because once we are licensed, as the Honorable Wilbert Minister for Agriculture said, when we are given that opportunity to process, we shall from money. Money is there.
All right, tell us a little bit, very briefly, about the cottage farming that you intend to do. Why do you think it's important for farmers like you to actually engage in cottage farming?
Cottage farming is good because I've never gone to India, but I'm told by those people who have gone to India, there are very many cottages there. All right? Again, when I have my own small factory here, I will process my tea and my neighbor's tea, and it fetch a lot of money. All right? We are here for money. We shall be making at least about 4 types of tea. We shall make green tea orthodox, black tea orthodox, we shall make purple tea, and we shall make instant tea. And at the same time, we shall process oil from these purple tea seeds. So we shall, and again, the flowers also, the Chinese know how to treat it to make money. So there's money in this purple tea.
All right. Thank you very much. Wahiga, like you've had a very interesting type of tea that is actually not just producing tea, but also it has seeds that can be able to actually produce oil. And earlier I had spoken to one of the people who are actually processing it in Meru, and he was telling us it's a very lucrative business. If just to give you a comparison, ordinarily this particular green tea actually the farmers sell it for about 15 shillings to the factories, and this particular farmer actually says that he was able to actually sell this particular type of tea for 100 shillings a kilo, which is actually unprocessed. And like he said, if you go to a factory where they're processing the purple tea, they'll actually sell to you as a customer the processed tea. A kg goes for about 1,500, and the other kind of tea ordinarily will go for around 250 to 300 shillings. Therefore, you can see the difference and the large margin. And so this particular farmer is saying that he ventured into this particular type of farming so that he can be able to actually earn more, and he hopes that now since KTDA has not been able to actually process this particular tea alone, he hopes to be able to do what the government is calling for, which is cottage farming. He joins together with other farmers who are doing something similar, and they be able to process their own tea so that they can actually benefit from this particular type of farming. Wahiga Maura, that is the story of the purple tea in Nyeri County.
Martin Monene, I was only waiting for you to tell me what it tastes like. Maybe next time we'll come back to get an indication of the taste that will be produced if you boil those leaves. Thank you for that update. Very interesting story nevertheless, and we certainly wish that farmer all the best. Well, you can see the breaking news that we are now bringing to you. Meru Senator Mithika Linturi, who had been accused of lying in self-declaration forms forwarded to the IBC back in 2013 as being a degree holder from the University of Nairobi. News just in, the University of Nairobi has revoked his degree, and of course now all focus will be on the IBC to give the way forward. Just to give you a bit of history regarding this particular case, now earlier this year the High Court had barred EACC from investigating him over those allegations. He moved to the court following an EACC summons, and before the EACC could move very far, the High Court barred the EACC from investigating him until some other matters took place. But now on the other end, we see that the UON, University of Nairobi, has gone ahead to revoke his degree. And we also know that for the senator, his name had actually featured in a list of among 106 politicians that the EACC had forwarded to the IBC as among those who had pending integrity questions, and the question there was in regards to his degree. So we'll wait to hear from the authorities on the way forward, especially the IBC will then need to give the way forward on this after what the University of Nairobi has done today. Well, we come back now to our discussion on matters economy, and joining me in studio, let me start from the far right, Lee Karori, KEPSA trustee. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. And
right next to him, Maurice Oduor, investment manager, Saiton, welcome to the program as well.
Thank you.
Good. Let's briefly try and capture a little bit about what the president spoke about, his first speech after his inauguration, after he was sworn in. And one matter that has really caught the attention of Kenyans, we even did a story about it last night, is the fact that players now in the tourism industry are really celebrating. They've praised the government's move, Lee, to allow travelers from the African continent to be issued with visas upon arrival in the country. For example, the Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers have already come out. They are very excited about that move by the president. But then there are others who are saying, wait a minute, who are we going to allow into our country? We are seeing the challenges other nations are facing when it comes to issues of immigration. Your take on that declaration by the president on Tuesday?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Let me say that Kenya, where we are today, within Africa, we are a very strategic nation that is looking forward to be open for business. And you know that the effort around integrating ourselves with the bigger and the greater region for economic growth and to tap into markets in the East African region, in COMESA, and in the African Union has been a process. And part of a catalyst for ensuring that there's movement of goods, services, and people is to open up our borders so that we can be able to have enough trans-Africa trade of services and goods. The only way to do that is to ease entry for purposes of investors and visitors. Now, when you come into Kenya, when we talk about getting a visa, it means that you must be coming here with a reason. And visa application says what you are coming to do in the country as a visitor and so forth. So I will say that it's a good thing because this is opening up Kenya for business, but you got also to put in security systems.
I was actually going to ask if you have any concerns.
Yes, that's the concern.
That's the concern.
That when you open up your nation for opening up for business, then you also have the risk of getting unwanted visitors who use the loophole to come into the country and do other things other than the usual business and doing proper activities. So there needs to be now further diligence and vetting and a very close eye, obviously, around the visitors. So when you open up, you open up to both the risk and the opportunity. And what is important is to get the opportunity
to outweigh the risk.
To outweigh the risk and manage the risk of unwanted visitors.
Maurice, this might seem far-fetched,
yes,
but there are those who feel, look, unemployment in this country is at what, 40% plus. We're opening our borders now. Could there be concerns that qualified foreigners could come into the country, get access to jobs, while qualified Kenyans, continue to, complain and worry about the level of unemployment in this country, or is that too far-fetched to be a worry for our nation?
I think if you look at the issue of opening the Kenyan borders to Africans to just come in and they get visa on arrival, is a key one. It's very important, looking at the tourism as one of the key sectors in Kenya. But the question that now remains is now how will we do it? One of the aspects is security and in terms of discipline, how you allow people to come in. But if you look at again in terms of more qualified people coming in to get jobs, yet we still have high unemployment rate in Kenya. The question now remains other regulations that we have to put in place to ensure the way these things are done, still Kenyans stand to benefit. One of the key things that need to be done is, like, if you go to most African countries, a case in point is like Nigeria, they have what is called the Local Content Act, which now means that whichever thing you are doing, there's a specific proportion that you must give to the locals. Even if it means getting the talent from abroad, from other countries, but there's a section that's already reserved to the locals. I think that's one of the mechanisms that need to be put in place to ensure that Kenyans continue benefiting. But if you look at, even despite the protectionist move in the West, if you look at globally, you are moving towards integration. You are moving towards more of regional integration, global integration. And now borders are being opened to facilitate trades and movement.
So this is something you can't fight.
You can't, as in it's an opportunity that is, time has come. Yeah. Its
time has come. I like that you put that. Let me pick up on another part of the speech that the president read. Lee, let me come back to you. He stated that his administration will focus on developing the following subsectors: agro-processing, textiles and apparel, leather processing, construction materials, innovation and IT, mining and extractives. Why those sectors in particular? Some are asking, why not oil exploration, for example, or any other? Why those ones in particular? Which one stood out for you?
Yeah, I would say that when we look at it from KEPSA and emerging business opportunities, those sectors are critical sectors that are going to help us move forward in terms of growth, job employment, and also wealth creation. We know there are other priority sectors. I would say that those are good sectors, but we would like to also add, for example, tourism.
I was actually going to ask you,
yes,
are there others you wish you had mentioned? Okay, tourism?
Tourism to us is a very important sector and when we look at the sector around construction, housing, housing was brought out as a critical sector for purposes of enabling as many Kenyans as possible to own homes. But we can expand that into construction sector, because construction sector also creates a lot of jobs. So housing is a key component, but the entire wholesome construction sector would be a better, would add the total picture, because the building materials that we have talked about are within the construction sector. So I would say that the focus, building materials, housing, and all the other aspects of real estate infrastructure will take the construction sector as a whole. So I would add tourism. Yeah, so I would add tourism there.
Okay, Maurice.
If you look at agro-processing in Kenya, the reason why it will always have a special place in the Kenya when we're discussing about Kenyan economy, look at agriculture still controls almost a third of the GDP in Kenya. which means these are sectors that we can't ignore. Then again, all these other aspects of textile, this just reminds me initially, these are sectors just supposed to be revived, and reminds me the time we used to have industries like Kikomi, Kisumu, Cotton Mill, we used to have Rivertex. These are just sectors that we still need to be restarted. And one of the sectors that I thought I would hear in the president's speech was how to unlock the access to credit by private sector in terms of the financial services sector, because currently we witnessed almost a year of declining private sector credit growth, which I think one of the aspects that we need to do, even just will provide capital and financing to these other sectors, is how do we deal with the challenges that are affecting the access to credit.
Would you have wanted him to revisit the interest rate discussion?
Of course, the direct discussion will be how now do you unlock the challenges that have been brought about by the interest rate cap? Because if you look at the reason why this law was enacted, was to facilitate access to cheap credit in Kenya, and it has yielded the opposite.
Okay, yeah. Lee, let me come back to you. You've talked about construction quite a bit. It is true that in his speech, he spoke about the intention to facilitate affordable housing, a home ownership program that will ensure every working family can afford a decent home. Then he gave a promise, or at least a pledge, that over the next 5 years, his administration will create 500,000 new home owners. Is this easier said than done?
Let me say that the promise, the objective is a very good one.
Okay.
Is a very good one. To try and get as many families to own homes, decent homes that are affordable. And as you know, this has been one of the dreams of Kenyans. And we know effort has been made to try and make affordable homes possible. Now, what this statement is bringing us is to refocus us on the whole area of housing, the Kenyan people. And we are talking about, around the nation, in the devolved government, everywhere. So I see an opportunity for us to have a multi-sectoral approach around the area of housing. We look at the financiers, we look at the developers, we look at land owners, we look at the role of government, and look at the best model, because this whole area of housing is about affordability, is about bringing the price down. Now, it's not easy providing mass affordable housing because of some of the factors that are generally already within the market environment, like land cost. Land is quite expensive right now, so we have to find a way of accessing a land that is a little cheaper, that is outside the normal domain of expensive land. The next area is the whole area of methods of construction, because the cost of a building, the cost of a house has a major factor around development, the cost of actual construction. The alternative methods of construction, alternative technology, that is going to become a major component to bring costs down, including amount of time taken, so that mass housing is the replica and the technology of sustainability in terms of mass construction brings costs down. There is financing. Financing.
Okay.
Yes.
I need to interrupt you just to let our viewers know that we are following what is happening in Parliament. The vetting of Yala nominees going on as we speak. So that's something we'll be taking you to shortly. And before we do that, because I want to get some closing comments here from my guests in studio, let's talk about slash power tariffs and the times that have been given. The president stating that with effect from 1st December 2017, power tariffs will be reduced by 50% between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The reduction means someone else will need to bear the cost of that, and any of the factors around that. Maurice, your thoughts when you first heard that pronouncement?
If you look at the access to electricity, again remains one of the key pillars in terms of ensuring that Kenya remains an attractive, in terms of even ease of doing business, attractive investment environment. For us to achieve the industrialization aspect that we even have in the Vision 2030, we need to come up with a lot of radical changes. One of them is what the president highlighted, which is now the reduction in terms of the tariff, in terms of electricity cost. The challenge now comes in how will we do it different, because all these aspects the president talked about were not new things. So I would have liked more to see how we are going to face the challenges that we have faced in the past, so as that have been hindering us from achieving all the objectives that have been brought about by all these economic policies. Okay, because building a 24-hour economy is not just about reducing the cost of power, there's security, there's a lot more, and some would argue that. But Lee, let me also get your thoughts, with his intention being that he wants to develop Kenya, Nairobi, all the counties
to allow them to be able to work 24 hours without any challenges?
Yeah, you see, this was directed to manufacturing, and industry takes a lot of power. And the idea here we see is that when you have got a lot of reserve power over the night, it's a good time for factories which have the capability to work overnight to actually make good use of our power, have production overnight, and that is very feasible. So I think it's a good, very good idea, because it is a motivation to move production not just during the day but overnight. And what obviously that means is that if you look at the cost-benefit analysis, you have to put some people overnight through the manufacturing process, but in the meantime you also make a lot of saving around energy, because energy is a major cost around production. So we see that that brings in opportunities for also good use of our energy. So, yes.
Okay. I want to get closing comments from you, Maurice. Let me come to you. We don't have time, but on matters debt, government spending, as we move into 2018, what do you want the government to focus on?
I think government need to rationalize its expenditure framework. We need to have a lean and an efficient government that again will not force government to go and borrow. And any borrowing that especially when we are going for foreign borrowing, is need to have specific projects we are going to finance using these funds, or that again we don't come into a situation where money are borrowed from global markets only to finance the current expenditure. The next thing is now we need to ensure that the devolution works for the benefit of Kenyans, for the intended purpose that was enshrined in the Constitution.
Okay, fair enough, Lee.
Yep,
just around debt, government spending, as we come into a new year, and yes. 2017, a year in which the government has not achieved its objectives.
Yeah. From KEPSA and the business sector, we would like to say that borrowing for purposes of development that can catalyze growth and be able to unlock the potential for a nation's economic agenda is good. However, we have to monitor the threshold, and we believe this is the time to check and audit whether we are able to take much more debt. So, and that is a continuous review, and considering that over the last 1 year, our incomes due to the political environment have gone a little down, as a nation, are we able to service the debt levels that we are getting to? So it's an important conversation, it's an important discussion, and I think it is a viable one to discuss. But debt has been used over many years to unlock growth, but we have to check our limits and what we are able to service. Okay, I think that's how we're going to leave this discussion. Lee Karori, KEPSA trustee, thank you so much for finding time to be here with us. We'll need to get both of you back, and Maurice Odwor as well from Saiton, maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, to talk about the effect of the slashing of power tariffs. Is it being felt out there? What are the reactions? Yes. And that's a discussion that we expect to have with you. And even as the president and his deputy work on creating a new cabinet or rejigging the cabinet and the people that they'll select, what part will they play in developing Kenya's economy? Definitely a lot of talking points in the coming days. On that note, we now take you to Parliament, where at this moment Aden Mohamed Noor from Mandera County is being vetted. He had been proposed as an IALA nominee. Let's now listen in.
Okay, Honorable Adam, maybe you can approach us now. We wish to present you this provisional nomination certificate as per the rules. After this, we'll forward it to Joint Committee for further consideration. We wish to congratulate you and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. And you may have your all the best.
Thank you and good day.
Next.
003.
003.
But yeah, we save us time.
Next one. Next one.
Well, we continue to bring you live images from Parliament. As you know, today was the day when Jubilee and the National Super Alliance had to hand over their list of nominees to the East African Legislative Assembly, kicking off a process that had been delayed by the lengthened electioneering period. Members of Parliament will elect Kenya's 9 representatives to the Regional Assembly. We believe that will be on the 13th of December. That's according to Kajiado South Member of Parliament Kato Olemetito. Jubilee Party will get 5. And the National Super Alliance will get 4 slots. And the fate of independent members for now is not known, although it looks like they will be locked out in this particular process. Now, just to let you know that Adan Mohamed Noor from Mandera County has already been vetted and cleared. The Jubilee Party presented a list of 15 members, but of course that will be whittled down because they only have 5 slots. We've also been informed that Simon Bogwa has been handed a provisional nomination certificate. Of course, Sam Ogina is on the ground, and later on, possibly on Citizen Live at 1, he'll just be able to just wrap all this up for us. But for Simon Bogwa, he will then now appear before the Joint House Committee for vetting. But Adan Noor, whose picture we had seen just a couple of minutes ago, going through the vetting process, he has been cleared. So that's a little bit about what's happening in Parliament today. Let me read you some of the other names and the counties that these nominees come from. We have a list of 15 names. Florence Sergong from Baringo County, Honorable Wanjiko Mohia from Nyandarua County, Jackson Kosgei from Baringo County, Irene Masit from Elgeyo Marakwet, Elizabeth Wangoi from Nyeri County, Charles Nyachai, of course that's a man who needs no introduction, from Kisii County, Doris Aburi, Kisii County, Honorable Abdulaziz Ali Farah from Mandera, Honorable Adan Mohamed Noor from Mandera, who you just saw and we've told you he's been cleared, Honorable Mpuru Aburi from Meru, Justin Ndhiri Bundi from Meru, Honorable Simon Nganga Mbogwa from Nairobi, Eunice Wanjiro Karanja from Trans Nzoia, Julie Njeri Waweru from Nyandarua, and Dr. Joe Moreithi Morioki from Nyeri County. Those are the 15 nominees that the Jubilee Party, that have gone through the Jubilee Party or coming from the Jubilee Party, and once vetted, eventually they will be whittled down to 5. So that's a little bit about what is going on at Parliament at the moment. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Charles Nyachai from, of course, Kisii County did not need no introduction, and he has now made his way there. Can we listen in even as he goes through this vetting process, seeking to be nominated to the East African Legislative Assembly?
Bear with us for a minute, the clerk.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
see this ID number. ID. We will find out. ID number. ID. This ID. Yes, he doesn't have it.
Former CIC Chairperson Charles Nyachai there, just about to undergo that vetting process. One of the 15 names nominated by the Jubilee Party in terms of nominees, and eventually this list will be whittled down to 5. We had hoped that we could listen in a little bit to that vetting process, but it seems to be taking a little bit longer than usual, and shortly I will be handing over to the Kiswahili team to take over. And so we will, go back to Parliament when we know, something has happened exactly. But for now, let's now join or bring in Brian Okoth, who manages our website here, edaily.co.ke, but also brings you all the day's trends on social media, online, what Kenyans are talking about. Brian, still good morning to you. What can you tell us today?
All right, a very good morning to you, Higa Maura. Let's take a look at the trends.